Hello everyone, this is Highlander from MTG Cardsmith doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review, and today we are reviewing a card by feralitator. Let's see, he gave me a little preface here. Speaking of reference cards, how about a card I made because I thought I could do a more on-flavor Godzilla reference than WotC themselves. Okay, so we got Shin Godzilla Amorphous. Now, before I talk about this card, I just want to mention that one of the dangers of making, and it's funny because this was posted as a response to me saying that on the forum saying that reference cards are dangerous because they have a lot of pitfalls. And here is another one of the pitfalls of a reference card is that your viewer may not understand the reference, and that's me. I mean, okay, I know of Godzilla. Okay, I know of Godzilla, but I'm not really a Godzilla fan. I've never really watched any Godzilla movies. I watched the, 1997 Godzilla movie by the guy who made Independence Day, but that movie was bad and didn't really have anything to do with Godzilla. And, oh, my dog is angry about that. Sorry, I'm back. And I haven't watched any of the new Godzilla movies, so any flavor here will be lost on me. And again, this is one of the dangers of making reference cards. So with that said, let's take a look at this card. And because I don't understand the reference, I will have to judge it specifically as a Magic card and not as a card that is flavorful. Okay, all I know about Godzilla is that he's big and he can shoot things out of his mouth. Okay, 5 green blue. So 7 mana, 7/6. So stats are a little underwhelming, which I find strange for Godzilla, but okay. A legendary dinosaur mutant. After a spell or ability that targets Shin Godzilla resolves, or Shin Godzilla is dealt combat damage by a creature an opponent controls, note the name of that source. Shin Godzilla has protection from all names noted on it. Excuse me. I see. So basically, excuse me, he can only be affected by things once. I see. So interesting concept, certainly. Definitely haven't seen anything like that before. So as far as novelty goes, it's up there. I do have a couple issues with this. I think it might be a little bit too cute, and here's why. So essentially, because of this ability, nobody's going to really interact with Shin Godzilla unless it's fatal, right? So like okay, they're gonna Doomblade your Shin Godzilla. Well, he's gonna get protection from it, but he's already dead at that point, right? So like, who cares? And nobody's gonna nobody's gonna double lightning bolt Shin Godzilla. You know what I mean? Because they know that it's not gonna work. So, and as far as being dealt damage by creatures, I mean, okay, yeah, they can chump block, but it's not that hard to trade for this creature. I mean, it's 6 power and it costs 7. So I mean, they're either going to trade with it or maybe they'll double block it. And even if you kill, maybe you get into a situation where they double block it and then you kill one of the blockers or you bounce one of the blockers, whatever, and it kills the other blocker. It hasn't taken damage from the other creature, and the other blocker's pretty much dead. So the ability doesn't really go into effect there. So really all it does is prevent chump blocking from the same creature. So from tokens, basically. And so all that being said is this, I can't think of too many situations where this ability is actually relevant. And because of that, I don't like this ability because of how complex it is. So it's a very complex ability, and it Oh, my dog just farted. Oh no. Oh, terrible. The complexity cost here I don't think is worth the payoff, is what I'm trying to say. So let me just read this again, just to make sure I know what I'm talking about. After a spell or ability that targets Shin Godzilla resolves. So this is one of my issues, is this word resolves. I know that Wizards has used this in the past on cards, I believe. Let me just double check that. I think somebody mentioned that to me. Yeah, putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. Okay, well, Goblin Welder doesn't really count. These old cards are kind of insane. So, let me say release date here. So, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, exile instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. As this ability resolves. So, very rarely is the answer. Mostly just for exiling cards. Yeah, almost always just for exiling and for this thing as resolves. And I think the reason for that, the reason for it for its rarity is because, like, a lot of players aren't going to know what this means, right? Now, okay, all of us, most of us on MTG Cardsmith are, you know, expert Magic players and expert Magic mechanists, or, you know, we know all about the mechanics of Magic, right? But there's a lot of players that don't, okay? There's a lot of players that don't, new players especially. So putting this word resolves on a card is really dangerous, because it's like, I think I've used this example before, but like, imagine you're playing, you're teaching Magic to one of your friends. This is a situation I've been in very often, okay? Now, when you're teaching Magic to your friends, you really want to start with the basics, okay? But imagine you play Shin Godzilla, all right, and your opponent has just learned how to play Magic, right? They're like, what does resolves mean? And now you have to, like, explain to them about, like, the stack and, like, how abilities work. And it just opens up this whole can of worms, and it's potentially, I think, overwhelming. So that being said, I think that I would guess that's why WotC uses it very sparingly, and I would recommend not. I would recommend using it sparingly, and so that's part of the complexity that I'm talking about. Okay, so let's read the rest of it. Or Shin Godzilla is dealt combat damage by a creature an opponent controls, and then we have noting, right? Noting the name of that source, and noting I generally don't like as a mechanic. I mean, sometimes you have to, but I mean, usually it's better to, like, put counters on things, like, you know, noting is sort of very, very ethereal. Like, it doesn't say write the name of that source onto a piece of paper and put it on Shin Godzilla, right? It just says note the name. So that means it's on the players to remember, in whatever means they want, what Shin Godzilla is protected from. Okay, and that is, I think that's something you generally want to avoid if possible, if at all possible. Again, it's used sparingly by WotC, right? So both of these things are used sparingly by WotC. Protection, also used sparingly. And so all that together, you've got a lot of complexity here, a lot of things that, like, generally aren't a good idea, but sometimes can work. And the payoff is basically an ability that's, like, essentially does not that much. You kind of understand what I'm saying? Like, the payoff is not really that big here. It's like, well, in some random situations he'll have protection. Like, okay, he can only be blocked by a jump block by a sapling once, or your opponent has 2 lightning bolts in hand and they can't use it, right? But, you know, they could have a lightning bolt and a lightning strike, and that's fine. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this one. I mean, I'm assuming this, and again, this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the danger of creating these reference cards, is that when you make a reference card, you need to understand it's still a Magic card, right? And yes, maybe Godzilla. I mean, I don't know this, but maybe in the lore of Godzilla, he has something like this where, you know, he'll only lose to something once and then he comes back and he beats it or whatever. Maybe that's what you're trying to get across, right? But like, this isn't really the way to do that. And this is a, you know, you've sort of, I think you've fallen into one of the pitfalls of making a reference card, which is you are leaning way too heavily on the reference and forgetting that this is also a Magic card that needs to play. It needs to play like a Magic card. It needs to feel like a Magic card. It needs to have good design decisions like a Magic card. And you can't just rely on the fact that it's Godzilla and people understand what Godzilla is about, because I don't, right? So, yeah. So, okay. So that's kind of my whole spiel there. You got to be really careful with cards like this, or reference cards. So, what do I rate this card? Again, this ability is very novel, but I think it's novel for a reason. I think because it just doesn't really work that well. So yeah, I mean, I think I have to give this card like a 4 out of 10. I think, like, cool art, good choice of art. I do like that you found like some art of Godzilla that kind of fits blue green and also looks like a Magic card. Good job there. Again, I talked at length about this ability. I'm not a big fan of it. I would think that for 7 mana and the fact that he's Godzilla, he'd be bigger than a 7/6, but that's just me. Yeah, I don't see too much to love about this card, unfortunately. So yeah, and I hope that wasn't too harsh, but I speak my mind, so I don't hold back. For good or ill. All right, so that's my review of Shin Godzilla. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.